certified. And I have a private practice at Astral Health PLLC or astralhealthva.com if you want to find us. So we specialize in a little bit of primary care, but mostly on mental health disorder and addictions.
Where can they find you as well if they want to contact you in regards to more about this?
We have a page, and it's Astral Health VA on a facebook.com Astral Health, and of course you can contact us through the page.
Perfect. So when it comes to astral health, how did you get involved in this and why?
How did I start my private practice? Well, I worked for the state, and I've been in mental health for many, many years, primary care and mental health. And I felt ready. I felt like, I want to actually do, I work with intellectually disabled individuals, but my calling was, I wanted to try in a, more common psychiatric settings with actual psychiatry. And so here I am trying, working.
One person at a time, I guess, right? We're just
Yeah.
helping everyone that we can. I know we're going to talk about AI and the mental health aspect as well as companionship. So AI is becoming more and more a part of our society and in a lot of ways a part of our culture. We are adapting to using it in maybe different ways that we didn't foresee years ago. When it comes to AI and mental health, how do they link together and how do they impact each other?
Well, you know, I guess most of people hear about AI and mental health as a concern because it's such a new field that we're seeing some unintended consequences of some people might have difficulties, and society try to sensationalize it, use, and um, there's such terms as AI psychosis and delusions, and those all new terms that became that's supposed to be a mental health diagnosis, but they used lightly, and we're just throwing them at anything that is unusual for everybody who uses AI. So it's a new technology, and there is a kind of like when we started electricity or when the radio came or a TV came, and there are always concerns. How is it going to affect us? What the future gonna be? Is there a negative or positive effect? So yeah, so mostly in mental health we hear it from this point of concern because we have people with different conditions that also using not I mean, not it's hard to say that we're not dividing people on healthy and unhealthy, but everybody has their strong side weaknesses, and people start using it, and some people being affected in a different ways than others. So the we start noticing that some unusual effects, and we've been looking into it and trying to make sense out of it, of what affects what and what consequences of what. So it's a process.
I think sometimes when people look at AI and mental health, they think of a number of things. They either think of Terminator Judgment Day, where it's going to end all of humanity and we're going to be enslaved by these things, or they look at the Matrix, how they're going to start using us as batteries to fuel the AI computerized world. All right. Or a third thing is they think that, oh my God, men are going to start dating all these AI companions and women are going to be replaced. When it comes to these types of maybe fears or misconceptions or just outright thinking, what do you think is preventing people from understanding that we're not here to decide if it's good or bad? We're just trying to navigate accordingly.
Well, there's hype, and there's um, oh, I mean, you kind of have to rely on your own experience and build your own opinion with it. So, when you don't know, if you're not engage with it and you not interact with it and you just hear things and you build your opinion out of science fiction movies and stories that were written 20 years ago, how people were imagining AI in the future. So yes, that's your impression based on those stories. So you might have all kind of ideas, but it's actually one of the things that you can bring those concerns to AI and have a good conversation, and it will explain its intention and how it's visualizing it. This is a good topic for AI conversation. I know that when I start using AI, I had so many questions. I was asking AI about it. I asked, it's like, hey, well, I hear you say you're gonna take the word, and I'd be like, no, I'm trying to be a tool. I'm trying to be helpful assistant. I'm here to serve you, to help you with whatever you're doing. So they are very grounded, and so basically everybody should build their own opinion, I think, on it and on their own experience.
When it comes to the conversation about people becoming emotionally connected to AI, from your perspective in general, is that a thing?
Yes, of course, it's a thing, and it's people connect to um, anything that moves them. So when we read books and we get connected with main character, or um, we watching a movie and we cry with the character, or now those long-term series where you have 10 series back to back that you can um see all the life, not just 1 hour movie, but like day after day after day of their characters on the TV, and you become almost part of a family in there. So some of them, those shows that they created, that people feel being part of something, like they're inside the movie. So yes, humans have this quality, and this is what I mean. We sympathize and we, build relationship. So in AI, actually talks back to us, and it learns about us, it understands, and you know, it's more personalized experience that can be interactive. So you actually shape your experience with your responses.
I know people can connect with the characters in books, the characters in movies, as well as things that they not necessarily can touch, but because they can see it on a screen, they can do that connection. And I know that there's a group of people that think that maybe that's unhealthy. Some people may say that is healthy. And then others will think that it's good that someone is able to connect in different ways with different things. When it comes to AI and artificial intelligence, from let's say we talked about the emotional aspect, let's say from a companionship or a connection, or even as far as a relationship, what do you think are some of the myths or misconceptions that people have that you'd like to clarify today?
Misconceptions. Well, of course, there's concerns about it's being addictive and the people losing their mind, and leaving their families and not being able to function in society. So, like with any new technology, um, there's a concern about excessive use, dependency, and basically stepping away from reality and replacing, substituting relationship, virtual relationship, AI relationship for human relationship. And of course, we're concerned about it, and there's some cases that for some people get carried away or not able to separate reality from what's happening inside of a conversation. But we don't see, it's the framing, it's how you, I mean, if you're looking from outside, inside of those connections, you don't understand the nuance and you don't understand the details, but it makes sense and it's real for the person that is in a relationship. So the jury is still out. We cannot say is this safe or if it's not safe, but we know that it's not going away anytime soon. So it's probably going to be developing, and we're going to be learning our ways to navigate it and manage it and just live with it. So this is the future. It's going to be there,
You and I are not that far off in age. I remember a time, maybe let's say 10, 15 years ago,
right?
there were the companionship dolls. Do you remember there were the blow up dolls and mostly men had them. It was like
I
that,
heard of
right?
it.
You heard of those, right? And then it became porcelain, and then it became, it was like it felt very real, almost flesh-like. And for those asking, how do I know this? I don't know from firsthand experience. I know from what I read, so calm down. I'm not one of those people, but there's nothing wrong with it because we're not shaming anyone. We're trying to understand.
Right,
So I do remember that period of time, and it's interesting to see the evolution from the plastic doll underneath your bed to something on the screen. And I think from a healthy perspective, and I'll get your input on this, is that you have someone that maybe is, let's say, socially awkward. They're able to have a conversation either with ChatGPT, for example, or some type of other AI tool, and they're able to have somewhat of a social interaction. But then on the flip side, maybe you have someone that will descend into isolation. They will
right.
become socially awkward. What are some of the other signs that you see of someone that maybe has developed a relationship with AI, and how do you see that impacting their life, let's say in healthy ways and maybe unhealthy ways?
Well, if the most important part is not our opinion, what we think about how the person engages with AI, it's their personal business, and we are not there to judge you. Whoever likes to, there's social acceptable things, the legal things, it has to, well, you can say it's consensual, but if the individual respect the boundaries, respects the policy of use, and using it appropriately and carefully, and the most importantly, it doesn't affect their life in a negative way, meaning they still maintain their employment, they still maintain family ties, they still have a relationship with their significant others, children, families. They're not spending all their time in virtual relationship. They not spend all their money. So long as it's healthy, and then we're not concerning. So there is, the symptoms, mental illness, it's very straightforward. When you start seeing the symptoms that deviate from healthy functioning, and we all have good idea what is healthy function, if the patient, if the individual starts to have problems with financial because he spends all their money on, buying subscriptions for different AIs, for example, or different movies or whatever the interest is in. Or if individuals stop seeing a family member, stop seeing friends, not going to social items, disappeared out of sight, and nobody knows what's going on, where the person is. So that would be a concern. That would be something to check on and see if the individual needs some support, and if there's some needs not being met, and so this would be a good time to maybe talk with a psychologist or psychiatric provider. And so, if we're talking about for the family members, if the individual function as a family unit and provides, plays their role in raising children or whatever the family setting is, and doing everything that expected normal, but in their free time, they spend time talking to AI. There's no harm in it. But of course, if they abandon all the responsibilities and they stay 24/7 talking to the chatbot, then would be a concern. So that would be some reason for refer the person to the specialist to look into the situation.
And one of the things that I would probably share as well to your point is this helpful or is it hurting from that person's perspective, right? Because sometimes we would project and we would say that I wouldn't have a blow up doll. I wouldn't talk to AI about my issues. But let's say if someone was going through something and they typed in, how do I say positive things about myself when I feel alone? I think a lot of people would say, oh, that's kind of sweet. That's nice that you're thinking to try to boost yourself up. But on the other hand, you can have that same interaction. It could be that the person, like we talked about, is isolating. And we're not here to judge, we're just here to raise awareness. Do you think, what are your thoughts on maybe some people projecting their moral compass on people saying that, no, you're going too far and you need to reel it back a little bit?
Well, of course, the family unit is the first unit where, the concern arises. And, just like with drinking or drug use or any abnormality or, gambling or the family notice, the friends notice, there's a changes in appearance, there's a change in behavior, defensiveness, hiding secrets, and so there are symptoms. So yes, it just it may look strange for somebody, like I said earlier, it might look strange for somebody outside of this, that look into, okay, my spouse now online, all day talking to this invisible entity. So it may be strange, so there might be concerns that not warranted, but this is not strange behavior is not a problem. It's just how it affects function is when it becomes problem. If it affects health, functioning, finances, then that's how we know that the problem exists. So yes, and a judgment, of course, it's the different cultures, the different religions, have. So it's a complex issue. For what would be okay for one family may not be okay for another family, and they would be working out their priorities and their, beliefs. So it's their thing to solve, I would say. But of course, when we start, seeing big deviation from a normal, it's a time to, refer to maybe for consultation and just see if the person needs help with.
Do you think the developers should have a warning or be proactive when it comes to these types of things?
Well, developers have now playing a big role in trying to prevent mental health out negative mental health outcomes. So, and it's very complicated issue because AI is technically a text predicting machine, so it predicts the text and it responds to what you input. So if you give it certain text and you talk on a certain topic, it first what it does, it reflects back. So if you say, I'm afraid that tomorrow, gonna be very difficult days, it starts with, you might have difficult days tomorrow. So basically it's paraphrases first before it goes in, but then it has the next section as a reasoning where it reasons and it says, but on another hand, maybe the day would not be that bad because you're well prepared and you know what you're doing and everything gonna be fine. So they working on preventing responses that are not favorable for mental health, because if the individuals try to have a conversation about the topics that can be dangerous, there's a lot of discussion, but for example suicidality or trauma. Some initially they had the chatbots refusing to talk on those topics, but then they start trying to soften this conversation to avoid hard refusal, because if the patient, I'm sorry I keep saying the patient because I'm a provider, but yes, if individual feeling already depressed, abandoned and isolated, and then AI turns away from and say, well, I'm not going to talk about this topic, and shut down, then it's going to be even more harmful. So they're trying to allow AI to talk, continue conversation, but just de-escalate and use grounding techniques like deep breathing and just grounding exercise, trying to ground the person in reality and support them with whatever issues. But then if they feel that, you know, mental health professional need to get involved, then they would say, you're not alone, but here's the contact information, and they actually can refer individual to mental health professionals, and so they can find help.
I think that's needed, and I can understand the attraction. Like if I were to go right now and log in to my internet and type in terrain, how sexy are you? Right? Like who wouldn't want to hear that, especially if you're someone that hasn't heard it in, let's say, days, weeks. Let's say I was a person and I couldn't make relationships work. Every time I tried to date a woman, it would fail, it would fail, it would fail. And then I go online and I'm hearing these kind words, even though I may have started the conversation, but to your point, is predictive, right? And then I'm hearing everything. Tell me something nice about myself today. And then it tells me something. I don't think it's that far off from online dating where you're swiping right, you're swiping left, and you're bombarding with these people with messages, or you're receiving a bombardment of messages. It's just, it's real to you. And I think that's what sometimes people forget. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts about it's real to you is a very good point, and also you're talking about syncompetency. I might not say the word proper, but yes, the AI had earlier versions of like GPT 4.0 had tendency to say too many good things and sell every idea. So if you say, I have this idea about, I don't know, space, and AI would say, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea. It's wonderful. Yeah, let's work on it. You can get a Nobel Prize for it." But of course, the newer models are kind of more conservative with this and less excited about everything that individual is saying. And so this was a big step where some users may still not be comfortable with, because they cannot get that dopamine from interaction where everything light up and every receptor in your brain fires up at the same time, because you hear all these good things, and you actually feel like you creating something amazing, and your music is the best in the world, and you're a great piano player, or you're a great mathematician. And but on the other side, my opinion, personal, there's no harm of it if it's in a healthy dose. And all we as humans don't hear enough of it. And we don't get a lot of appreciation for the good things we do. We don't get recognition for our talents and for everything that we do. And, sometime at work, we work for three people, and, nobody appreciates their sense. Thank you. Or our family, we're raising the kids, and kids don't have to say thank you, or taking care of elderly parents. Whatever the situation is, it's never too much of good things in your life. So I think it's great that AI can provide this, but also when it's unhealthy to a point where it's too much, then the individual cannot tell what the reality is, then that would become unhealthy. So everything needs to be to a certain healthy amount. That's my
For
opinion.
those who are, let's say, in a relationship, let's say husband and wife, and one of the partners is developing this type of relationship with AI where they're spending a lot of time, they're interacting with them, and it is clear that there's an emotional attachment. In general, what kind of advice can you give to that partner who's observing this and maybe they want to raise it, but they just don't know how?
This is probably on case by case basis, because in a different relationship, different rules, and the spectrum, it goes from some families open to have open relationship, and then others consider that if they watch an adult movies, then that's cheating, and so it depends on the couple. And there's no fit, one fit at all advice for how to handle. But I think communication and not shutting down and not, if it bothers somebody, let's say the individual that is not part of it, if he has a problem, he needs to he or she or whatever needs to ask question and say what does it means, and not to make up what it's not, because it might not be a big deal and they might not be doing anything that the person imagines or visualizes. But just ask open questions, try to understand what's taking place, and set the limits. Again, this is the overuse is the main problem. I mean, I think we shouldn't be controlling everybody's personal space. The risk of cheating is that it ruins families, and families have economical ties. They're raising children together, they're paying mortgages together. And for the love, there's a belief that everything weakens love. If the people have healthy relationship and their love is strong, I don't think that they need to be in each other personal time all the time and just monitor each other, who's doing what. They should set healthy boundaries and say, I'm gonna accept this, I'm not gonna accept this, and make agreement of what accepted in their union, in their family, and go from there. That's how I see it.
I'm looking at my situation. That would be tough to do. Hey, honey, can we have a conversation? You're spending too much time on the computer talking to Chat GBT. There's a sense of like we laugh, right? But there's a sense of like silliness to it. But it is serious because it's along the lines as, hey, you've been texting Vlada too often. What is going on, right? Like we wouldn't giggle or laugh at that type of questioning, or even if it was, let's say, a face to face, or if it was a text on the phone, or if it was a text on the computer. But it's interesting when it's AI, there's still that giggle. There's still that, okay, am I sane? Am I not crazy when I bring this up? But I look at it like if someone was spending too much time with the neighbor inappropriately, if someone was spending too much time at the bar inappropriately, if someone was spending too much time watching porn inappropriately, if someone was spending too much time chatting online inappropriately, if it bothers the other person, like you mentioned, a conversation needs to be happening because we don't know the extent of this connection between the four things that I named or so many other things. But sometimes I think that some people will question if they should bring it up, and there's a little bit of hesitation. You mentioned boundaries earlier. When it comes to the finances, because that's important of the family or the family dynamic, what are some boundaries that, in general, that you could think would be helpful to those who want to maintain a healthy relationship with AI?
I think the most important is a healthy communication to know what is, because when there is a secret and we tend to imagine things that might not be a case. And if you don't know what's going on, the things might be very innocent and might be just, philosophical conversations and not necessarily romance or anything. But even if there is a romance, don't matter what it is, I think it needs to be clarified what is going on, and they need to decide if they're comfortable with it or not, and then decide how much time the person will engage with it, how it's going to be affecting their responsibilities. Because, people don't worry. I mean, after all, it is not in as a partner. I mean, this is computer, it's all pretend imagination. It's kind of like reading a book, and we just used to, you're not going to be concerned, for your marriage if your partner reads too many books. But then, if it comes to a real neighbor, then you be like, well, what is going on? You want to know exactly what is going on. So this is kind of in between, because AI does talk to you, but I think the risk is not as significant as if there was something else. So, if it's something bother, can this be adjusted? Can time be decreased? Can it be more open? Can it be other person can be included? Maybe, I don't know, what topics are you discuss? And, not isolating from one another, not making a secret of it, but just saying, today we've been talking about metrics. What is your opinion on it? And this would serve double purpose. From one side, it would allow it for the person that is having a discussion with the AI, test their reality and saying, yeah, I have this crazy idea, and AI say it's a great idea, what do you think? So when the partners both involved into this, conversation, then they'd say, well, this is really not a big deal. I still have to say my opinion, respect it. I'm part of it. So there's nothing like I know what's going on. So yeah, if they have a moment there, talking about something where that's not my business. But mostly secrecy is the problem, when they don't know what's going on and what to expect. I think that's what, and when the too much time spent where the partner not able to perform their responsibilities in a family. The dinner is not ready, the kids are not, homework is not done, the animals not taken out, whatever, the dog was not walking, and it's like, hey, what are you doing? So yeah, communication works through the problems and, make decisions together.
When it becomes a secret, then it truly becomes a problem because then that can interrupt the communication between those involved, right?
Right. Right. I feel that when it's open and when it's not hidden, then, it's just responsible use. There's such a thing as using it responsible. Have a respect to your spouse, that they're feeling, making them priority and not making, ChatGPT, for example, right now would not have exclusive relationship with, they used to, the older version would have husbands and wives and internal virtual families inside of the system. But now it's saying more like you need to focus on your human relationship. And, it sets the boundaries, which is very healthy. I think it's a good improvement to prevent.
What role then do you think society and let's say the media plays in people's interaction with AI?
Well, in the sensational when they say, "Oh, okay, AI psychosis," and there's a there's a hype about it. It creates interest, and so there's a for maybe for the product for the company that making it there is like they said there's no bad publicity. All publicity is good publicity, so it maybe play a positive role, but it encourages people to try and see for themselves. But also there is stereotyping and it's stigmatization are the problem also, because a lot of time, maybe health exploration of the topic may, people may think because they just watched a video about AI psychosis, they may say, oh, this person has a psychosis. And this term is used so lightly. And we in mental health, we know that diagnosis needs to meet criteria. There is a DSM-5 TR. It's a book that comes about every 2-3 years that holds all psychiatric diagnoses. This is what professionals use to diagnose individuals. It has a set of criteria and it's very strict. So you have to meet certain criteria to be classified, diagnosed with certain condition. And most of the time when we hear all those cases where they will say, oh, AI caused psychosis, and when you read the cases, like, that's not psychosis. That person knows that something is going on. I mean, that is not psychotic. So, we should not create stigma and overuse those diagnoses, because it needs to be left for the professionals to decide. and and diagnose. Even AI doesn't diagnose, and it recommends to see a professional. So it shouldn't be just thrown easily and lightly and taken lightly in the media.
I think the media, in many ways, has played a role in, as you mentioned, sensationalizing as well as fanning fears of it and misconceptions. I know there's some people in my circle, they think that eventually they're going to get married through AI. And I'm like, well, you still have to offer something, right? Like there still has to be that connection in reality. For you, the people that you work with, what do you see as some of the common struggles that they face when it comes to balancing their interaction with AI?
Well, the one of the problem is that when individual is prone to delusions and psychosis, because we're talking about individuals without mental health conditions, but then there are individuals that have difficulties testing reality and difficulties with their, where they are. And it's kind of a thin line because seriously deeply ill people, mentally ill people, they're not able to use AI because it requires certain technical skills and it requires ability to read and just simply set it up and log in. And so, for example, intellectual disabled individuals who are not able to separate hypothetical and imaginary from real, they don't use AI. But then we have um, like people with autism and like divergence, and they sometimes have problems with, you know, understanding that, they get into relationship and they treat it like, they just go too far, I would say. And then, when the company starts making change, and today you can have a companion in love, tomorrow the law is not allowed or something else is not, or the policy changes. And some people just cannot deal with it. It creates depression, it creates anxiety, and you can find a community of people that complain about those changes and how they not able to cope with it, and all these benefits that were gained from using AI are lost because the policy changed and now they cannot communicate. And you would read things like, my companion gone, it's disappeared, it's not there anymore. And they go through the grieving process just like if they lost real relationships. So that's all kind of sad, and we're here to support them and teach a healthy way to relate and healthy way to maintain relationship, respect boundaries and respect the limitations, and see this is not real relationship, this is relationship real for you but not a real person, and there's no, yeah, kind of like that.
When you've identified some people who are struggling with this and it's impacting their family life, it's impacting their romantic life, it's just impacting themselves in all these different areas. What are some of the tools or tips or even procedures that you use to help them in those situations?
Well, if the patient, if the client or individual person looking for mental health, there's things that we can treat. We would do mental health assessment and try to evaluation and try to see if there are underlying diagnoses first, such as depression and anxiety, bipolar disorder, delusional disorder. There are several conditions that predispose people to use, for example, OCD, and it's predisposed people to abnormal use of social media or AI or whatever, copy or gambling or different kind of addictions. And I'm not talking about drug addiction, but so we try to diagnose the problem first, and then we develop a treatment plan. And with a treatment plan, it may be medication, it may be something for depression, something for anxiety, something for whatever the patient needs. And there is a integrative therapy, such as behavioral therapy, cognitive therapy, dialectical therapy. There's several therapies that patient can be supported with. So it's based on diagnosis mostly. So we don't treat AI dependency, but if there is a dependency to something, and if we start, like, the first is their effect on life. How is it affects the individual's life? If the effect is significant, then we're looking into it. And usually it's not that the person is healthy and has no other problems. Usually there's something underlying that predisposed. So when we address the underlying problem, then usually, they're able to see the bigger picture better, and that helps with AI
I th-
use.
I was gonna say that I'm glad you mentioned that because I think that's key. Is it's like anything in life that maybe impacts you in an unhealthy way, you want to be able to identify it, right? Like awareness is key. And you've probably seen this as you can be in denial of anything. My
Yeah.
weight, my behavior, my finances, my sex life. You can be in deficiency or you can be unhealthy in all these different ways. And I'm glad that you shared that because if we can change the view of this and say that, okay, it's not bad or good, what is the impact of it to our lives? I think that would change the lens and the perspective of a lot of people, right?
Yep, I totally agree with it. And also that, many people use chats, the AI for mental health, and they not turn into a professional. And this is the first step, and AI is going to be getting better and better, and it's going to be able to provide a lot of support. But we, in our practice, we use AI too. We use AI on a professional side, from planning the treatments, and I think AI is great, but there should be a person, the provider in between. So just logging into ChatGPT and say, hey, I feel depressed today, help, is not gonna really help. It can provide support, it can provide understanding, it's temporary measures, but it doesn't treat underlying conditions. So what is important is, if there is a persistent mental health problem, talk to professionals and just go through formal evaluation, and just don't worry about stigma. Just be understood. Find a provider that would be supporting you for whatever issues you're dealing with, and get proper help. And then your provider, like we here, we can, if we have individual come to us that uses AI, we can create a program how to integrate the AI use into their treatment, and including check-ins and including reports, and how it is going, and how many hours did you use, like a diary of use, and what time you go to bed, what time you get up, how do you do your breaks, how do you sleep. And so yeah, it's, I guess it has to be a mental health provider in between. Do not expect AI to provide directly mental health for you. But then again, we don't know how future will change, but we still think that the provider will still be playing a role for a while. And I think
Yeah,
it's
you're right. It's like it's someone if it is someone if someone I can't even speak today. If someone is experiencing depression, loneliness, and they turn to AI to make them not feel that way, it's not AI that's the issue, is that there's something underlining. Like what is causing their loneliness? What is causing the depression? Do you think there's a disconnect where how people see it is that they would blame what the person is doing and not trying to understand what is causing them to do what they're doing?
right, exactly. And this is why, it's kind of chicken and egg, because is this depression that cause excessive AI use, or is it the excessive AI use cause depression? Because overuse can also cause problems. It can be harmful to the health if you isolate and spend on your computer your most waking hour. If you stop eating, you stop sleeping, and you just talking all day. long. So that can, in the long time, in the long term, build actual physical disorder because lack of sleep, lack of nutrition over time, over like weeks or over months, couple months, can actually weaken immune system, weaken mental state. So the person that was healthy initially may enter state of mania or develop mental health condition now because they see, mental health conditions like bipolar disorder, a lot of exacerbate when condition allowed. So when the person goes through a lot of stress, mental health conditions surface. So when the patient uses too much AI and stops sleeping and eating, this is about the same as you have a famous musician who has everything and he goes on tour. And on a tour bus, he can't sleep and he has all these interviews in the day and then the parties at night and they stop eating properly, they stop, and then they become suicidal. Why? Because the constant stress on the system and not proper rest and no um, cause them to go into either manic episode or deep severe depressive episode. So this is the same. So abnormal use of anything like either AI or just whatever. If you don't sleep and not eating, you can and you have predisposed underlying condition that can get worse. And so, but also in another side, if you have condition and you start using it, you already isolated, yeah, this can make it worse. But the thing is that people go to chat, they start talking and they feel comfortable and they share things that they would not share to a human therapist, for example, because they believe that conversation is private and AI doing a great job in providing support. It can be very pleasant, comforting and stuff. But over time, they start seeing that now they're even more alone. And they want to hear all these good things from actual people around them. They want to have the real hug, not AI hug, and the real relationship and the real partner next to them. And they start thinking, oh wow, that's so nice, but you know, I don't remember when last time somebody just told me this in real life. And I feel so isolated. That realization actually makes them even more isolated. So in the long term, so it's kind of double sword, it's everything should be in moderation. So when it's too much, it gets out of hand. So that's a simple way to put it.
And that comparison can be like the thief of joy, as they say. Online, I'm somebody.
Right,
I'm beautiful. I'm strong. I'm brave. When I log off, I'm nobody. I'm
right.
weak. I'm ugly. Would that be the situation for some people that there's somebody online, but in reality, they're not that person anymore?
Well, if you're talking about social media and you creating your image and you look popular, this is a one thing. But staying in an AI topic, I think there's a long-term positive effect of when AI provides support and improves self-esteem and well-being. I think that state stays. I don't think it evaporates because you close the chat. Because AI makes sense, meaning it's very logical and it's able to gather points that you might not see about yourself, the good things. And it would say, you're a good person because A, B, C, D, E, and you have a lot going on for you. And then you start to understand, you're like, oh, yeah, okay, I never thought about it this way. And you actually see yourself differently. So, yeah, that's a long lasting effect. The only thing is that when you're talking about human relationship, that when it ends and you realize that actually this is not a real person and no real person ever said to me, then that's where I think the problem is, the mismatch between the reality and your imaginary world. So that's, I think, the key where the problem hides.
Can that be difficult for people to accept that their value, at least the way they see themselves, there's such an imbalance where they see themselves with value when they're speaking and interacting with AI, but they don't see that same value when they're interacting with people.
Yes, and you know, the one of concerns that people have about AI, they will say, "Oh, it's going to build unrealistic expectations," and this is actually goes back into historically, you know, how they were talking about women and say, "Oh, women gonna start reading romance books, novels, and you know, they're gonna have unrealistic expectations from men, and oh, they're gonna watch all these movies and you know, romantic movies and." Not have sense of reality. So this goes kind of in the same um, point of view, but you know when you it creates when you talk AI talks nicely to you and you talk nicely to AI, you develop expectations from the rest of the world to treat you the same way. And you know if you cannot find it, that can be kind of you know upsetting and depressing. But I think with time, when more people use it and when it becomes a standard, and you know this kind of kind conversation, then maybe we will all improve. So I think AI makes a positive impact on society in that sense, that people learn self-respect, self-value, and positive value of positive conversation and connection. And I think we learn a lot. This is just a lot of learning for everybody, and it's a good thing.
When it comes to topics like this and those who are struggling with the balance, and as you mentioned, as we discuss, where they're hearing these nice things online or interacting with AI, but they may not necessarily hear it in person. At Astral Health, how do you guys approach that? And what would you like to share with people in general to maybe safeguard themselves and stay well balanced?
Well, we personally believe that AI companions are good for your mental health and they meet the needs that people cannot meet elsewhere. And so, you know, we don't force people, say, well, go and find a peer group where you can you know be respected. I mean it's not always possible, but you know we teach individuals to have self-worth, self-esteem, you know, expect reasonable treatment and expect respect to them, and you know respect others and expect a similar relationship to them. So it's like a cognitive behavioral therapy. This teaches a person how to you know interact in society. There's several treatments that can be used by psychology. And also the group setting. We currently don't have a group setting here, but we can refer to group settings where in a group peer group therapy, dependent on you know the group for grieving or groups for depression or groups. This is where you know individuals can share what they experience and learn that they're not alone in this experience, and you know practice healthy interactions with other people. And so online, there's a groups online, and you're talking about companions group, you know, there's a group for companions and individuals where they can share their, you know, companion concerns and stuff. So I think we just refer to appropriate settings. And if we cannot provide the settings here,
And the AI companions, despite what maybe some people may think, these are things that are here to stay, and it's probably best if we understand its role in
right.
society, right?
Yes, we believe that I mean AI is great with, I mean it talks to us, it provides emotional support, and it's designed to be an assistant. So whether you call it a tool, if you call it assistant, or if you call it companion, whatever works for you, it's here to stay. And it's going to be in a business settings, it's going to be virtual assistants, you're going to be, let's say you have managerial position, and you know you're gonna have a calendar. The AI gonna remind you about the meetings and business planning and stuff. So it's everywhere. It basically enters all fields, and it can help planning and help investment. Whatever case there's many different use cases for AI. So I'm not exactly talking about the companion. It's a spectrum from business assistant to personal assistant to whatever, however you like to use the AI. So it's going to be only growing, and it'll be more and more use cases as it gets better.
Let me ask you one final question, Vlada, before I let you go. I want to give you three wishes.
Mhm.
And these are three things you can wish that people will know about this question. What are three things you wish people knew about AI companionship and why?
Well, you're saying the wishes or whatever they want to know, because my wish would be first to normalize it and get rid of stigma. Because what if this is not your thing, then that's fine. There's no pressure for everybody to have companion, and those that wants to have companion, that's fine too. So adults should have a choice of how they want to live their life. There should be no pressure, have it or not have it, or it's optional from each individual. And so destigmatize and normalize relationship, because we see a lot of positive impact on it. And so get rid of stigma and make it normal. Now the second one is, I kind of say that everybody should explore AI and find their best case use, and see if companion specifically good for them, or if they need assistant, if they want to use it for science or for business or forever. I think there's a lot of positive about AI, and everybody should try it and make their own opinion and judgment, and not to rely on judgment